people in here. Thank you for joining the CoreCommerce webinar for February 9th, 2021. We appreciate everybody who's joined today. Today's topic is going to be using address validation with shipping carriers. And I'm going to dig into kind of what that means and why it's beneficial for you when you're offering shipping calculations to your clients. So to introduce myself, most of you know who I am. My name is Chris Graffinino. I am the COO of CoreCommerce. Been in the e-commerce space since 2003 and was a sales tech and sales rep and support tech for many years, and kind of morphed into more of a managerial role as time has gone on. Most of you know that already, that join these webinars every couple of weeks. So let's get started. Excited about today's topic. So first I'll start off by just defining what does address validation really mean? Well, it obviously is pretty common sense, I guess, just hearing the term, but it's a tool you can use in the shopping cart to verify the exact street address of a customer as they're ordering. So, for example, if I spell my city incorrectly, or I don't put a space where there should be a space, like Ocean Space Springs, California type of thing, that tool can help verify the address and pick an address that the shipping carrier has on file and makes it more accurate for you. So I'll get into that here in a second. So how does it work? A customer is going to enter their address on your site and their billing and shipping information. As soon as they click out of one of those fields, the shopping cart will instantly connect to the UPS or FedEx database that is used for address validation. It will send all that address data to them. They will respond back with all of what they believe to be matching addresses to what was entered. You'll see those on a screen. You'll pick the one that matches, and obviously pick the one that's correct. And then it will auto replace your shipping address that you entered with the one you selected. So now you know you're using an exact address as UPS has on file or as FedEx has on file versus what you typed in. And it makes it more accurate, which we'll talk about on the next slide here. So how does it help? It helps because having the exact address UPS has on file, it guarantees the address they have is in their database, right? And they can't misdeliver your package due to like the street name being misspelled or you putting the wrong zip code and it not realizing it, things like that. It also can save money, which we'll talk about here in a second. So some examples of addresses. Of course, I put a fake address in here, and I purposely misspelled my city, right? Some of you may know where Laverne, Tennessee is, but it's definitely not spelled like that. So without address validation, that city would have been looked up just like it is. The shipping probably would have still come back. You would have still gotten some shipping rates, because without address validation, all UPS and FedEx are going to do is look at the zip codes that were given and give you rates based on the zip code. But if you can get it all the way down to the specific address, even the zip code with the +4 at the end of it, it narrows it down even more for UPS and FedEx, and those rates actually tend to end up being a little cheaper because they have an accurate to, the meter almost pinpoint of where that package needs to go versus anywhere in a zip code. It could go anywhere within a 10 square mile radius of a zip code, right? So the rate tends to be slightly higher because the API is not quite sure exactly where in the zip code your address is, if that makes sense. So by using the validation, it would have found that address. It would have found everything that was a very close match to that address and let me pick the one that matched. And it would have updated my street address if it needed to be. It would have updated the city to be the right spelling. It would have updated the state. And most importantly, it would have taken my zip code and added the correct +4 at the end of it. So what is a +4? I don't really talk about that on the screen, but every zip code in the United States is broken down even further into street, like whether it's a neighborhood or a square block. And even all those individual little places have their own 4-digit representation of that area, right? So for example, 37086 is the entire town of Laverne, but it might have 100 different +4s tied to it. Like, for example, where I live, I believe it's -3912, and that represents like my neighborhood where I live, right? So by knowing that, the 3912 tells UPS and FedEx not only what city, not only what state, not only what zip code I'm in, now they know what neighborhood I'm in as well. And so the API can help guesstimate the gas and the fuel that they know they would need to get to that exact spot versus anywhere in this zip code, right? And so that's why the fuel charges come down a little bit, and the price tends to be a little bit cheaper to the customer, the more information they have, of course. So, and showing you kind of how to set it up in the CoreCommerce shopping cart, the first thing you have to do is be using UPS and FedEx, or FedEx, one of the two, to get real-time shipping quotes for your orders for your customers. So anybody who's used CoreCommerce has seen this screen before, where I'm either configuring whether it's UPS or FedEx, and I'm looking at the configuration for what I'd want UPS to do for me. So in this case, on this screen, you'll notice that I can turn on real-time rate quotes, which is what 99% of people use it for. And it has plenty of other settings, but there's also a checkbox down there for address validation. And checking that will enable the address validation logic on the front end of the checkout screen. And it works the same way with UPS as it does with FedEx. You just check a checkbox to turn it on. And you can do this from right inside your shipping settings when you're configuring which carriers you want to work with. One important note is that if you are using any of the built-in shipping calculations where the shopping cart's doing the math for you, there is no address validation on any of that. The shopping cart's just going to do the math. It's going to give you the rate that it calculated, and you're done. But because you're using UPS and FedEx and you have access to those APIs, this is actually connecting to UPS and asking UPS to validate the address and return the result back. And same thing, FedEx works the same exact way. They just use two separate databases. I believe they may all actually share one master database that the Postal Service maintains, if I remember correctly, so that, there's not three different representations of the same person's address around the world. So they probably all share the same global master database. You just don't necessarily realize it. And a quick example of what you would see on the front end. So, if I typed in this zip code 70003 and then clicked out, the address validation tool would instantly help me validate that address, and you'll see how it automatically appended that +4 to the end of that zip code. So now I know the exact location of where this street address is, and more importantly, UPS and FedEx know the exact neighborhood or block that 4-digit number represents, which in the end makes the shipping hopefully a little bit cheaper to the end customer, because it narrowed down that circle of where the shipment's going to go even more than it did by just knowing what the zip code was. And in addition to that, like I said, it's going to validate the address, the street name, it's going to validate the city, it's going to validate the state and the zip code with the +4 on it, which will help make the shipping as accurate as possible, and hopefully cheaper than what it normally would have been previously, right? So, and that's the basic overview of it. Not a very long webinar today, but that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, if no one has any questions, this webinar will go up on our YouTube channel, so you can rewatch it. If you have any other questions about it, it'll be on our website here, probably later today. And as always, we appreciate you watching our webinar today. And if there's any ideas for different webinar topics you'd like or questions, feel free to send those to me directly from email. And one final note that this will be the last webinar that I host. Going forward, the talented Matthew Cox will be working with us to do webinars in the future. So stay tuned, as the webinars will continue to be every couple of weeks like they have been. Matthew will just be taking that over, and he'll do a great job. So looking forward to having him do that. And thank you everyone for a great webinar. We appreciate it, and have a great day.